Welcome to Clever Classroom IT. My name is Phil Mellifont, and in this series of Clever Classroom IT, we'll be looking at a range of issues that are relevant to schools to do with technology and learning. We want to look at teacher professional development, identifying the hardware and software in your school, and a whole range of issues with invited guests that will challenge the way that you think about technology and learning in school and at home. I'd like to welcome Steve Tyndall from Imprise. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Phil. Thanks.
Now, Imprise develop and manufacture Borland and Visogenic tools.
That's correct.
And of course, Borland, Delphi and some of the other products have been very popular in education for a number of years. And I think we're going to have a look at the latest Delphi today. Is that right?
We're going to take a look at Borland Delphi 4. I'm going to give you a bit of an overview on what the product can do, and then we'll take a look at some of the new features.
Great. Let's have a look.
Okay. We'll just start off with the Delphi environment. We have up the top here the tool palette. Over here is what we call the object inspector, and here is our form. The form is what you'll actually see in the finished application. The tool palette comprises of a number of pre-built components that Imprise supply for you. Since Delphi is a fully object-oriented language, all of these components that we supply can be extended on, inherited from. You can override the methods and properties. So you as a programmer can create your own components and inherit from the components that are provided, or just use the ones straight out of the box. Let's take a look at some of the components. There's some simple components like text fields and push buttons, okay, as well as some more complex components that we'll take a look at later. Let's just start at a basic component. The push button object has a number of properties and events, and we can see those properties and events over here in the object inspector. So when I click here on the object, here are the properties listed for that particular object. Now, one example property is the caption property, and you can see that if I change that caption property, over here we can see the caption on the push button has changed. Okay, so they're the properties associated with the object. As well as that, we have events, and each object also has a whole series of events associated with it. And as you can imagine, for a push button, one of the events is an on-click method. So whatever code we write in here will get fired automatically for us when the user clicks on the push button. And to go to that code, I can just simply double-click, and Delphi takes me straight to the code editor, where I can write the actual source code that's going to be performed on this click. All right. So, for instance, if we write here a show message call, all right, and if I let's run this application, we'll see that when I click on the push button, it shows up a message box that says hello. Okay, so that's fairly simple, but it gives you an idea of what an event is. Let's take a look at a few more of the more advanced objects now. Writing an application with just a push button on it obviously is fairly simple, but let's take a look at something more powerful that you could use Delphi for. Typically, Delphi is used to write database applications, and the database support in Delphi is quite impressive. As well as having visual components like the push button that I just showed you, Delphi also provides a number of non-visual components. Now, a non-visual component is a component that can be completely reused just like a push button, except it doesn't show up at design time. And this particular component that I've just dropped down now represents a connection to a database. So in the properties of this component, we can tell Delphi what the database name is. Okay, so we just drop down this, and it gives us a list of all available databases, and we tell it which table that we want to talk to, table name. For this case, we'll choose customer. And there's a property up here called active. We can set that to true, and we can see that it's gone to true, and that means that Delphi has actually successfully connected to the database, and we now have a live connection. This component is representing a connection and some data in the database. Obviously, that's fairly useless by itself. Typically we want to see this on the screen. So we have a grid component here, which allows us to display data on the screen. We just need to do one other thing to link this grid to the component that's supplying the data, and to do that we use what's called the data source, and its job is purely to do that, to link non-visual controls to visual controls. So I just I'll hook these two components up now, and we can see straight away that even at design time, Delphi shows us the data that's available in that particular table component. One other thing I'm just going to drop on here is what I call a navigator, and the navigator bar just allows me to navigate through my data set using push buttons. So let's just make this form a little bit more usable. And let's run our application and see what happens. So you can.
So Steve, you know, years ago in education, it would take hours and days to develop a database engine like this.
That's right. The tools that are available nowadays are all pre-written for you, and the whole idea is rapid application development. So you as a programmer, fact is you don't need to write as much code as you used to write. We do a lot of it for you, and that's bug-free code that you can make use of.
Seems to be very conceptual too, because you're getting a visual, you know, diagram of the application that you're developing.
The idea is to make this application development as simple as possible. So we can see here that we can advance through records, we can add records, okay, and we can delete records, and we've done that without writing any code whatsoever. Let's take a look now at taking this application one step further. We might want to do some sort of reporting or charting with this particular application. Let's have a look now how Delphi makes it really easy to build graphical applications. What I've dropped on here is a chart that's going to graph for us the orders that each one of these customers has placed with our corporation. Okay, and to hook these two up, I just have to write one line of code. Actually, it's very simple. All I need to say is db chart, and this allows me to show another very nice feature of Delphi, the Delphi development environment. This is what we call code insight, and just by writing half the line of code that I want to write, Delphi actually completes that for me.
Wow.
So I can very easily call in-depth methods and properties that I'm not too familiar with. Delphi will actually show me where those properties are. So I'm just going to type refresh data and choose that one out of the list. Okay, and that's all I need to do. All I've done is told Delphi to, when I change the current row in this table, to update the graph. So let's run that and see what happens. So same as before, as this is compiling just quickly, we're going to have a graphical GUI application that is doing full inserts, updates and deletes on the database, as well as manually automatically graphing for us the orders that each customer has shown. So you can see that very easily, with almost writing no code at all, it's possible to build very powerful database applications.
What about the web, Steve? A lot of schools have websites and they're developing websites and they want to put content up there. I understand that this will interface with web design?
Yeah, obviously the internet is a very important part of industry and education today, and it's very important for companies to be able to push out their applications to the internet very rapidly. And Delphi provides excellent web enablement. What I'm going to actually do here very quickly is build my own component. We talked about components earlier. I'm going to build a component which wraps up all of the things that we've done today already, and I'll show you how I can publish that component onto the web very simply. So I'm going to say here, component, create new component. Let's give that a name. Let's just call it, say, T-Demo for today. And I'm going to put that on the templates page. And we can see here, if I go and have a look at the templates page now, there is a component here called T-Demo. All right. All I need to do now is say new, and when I choose new from the menu, Delphi gives me an option, what we call the object repository, of a whole bunch of objects that I can create. In this case, I'm going to create a new active form. An active form is the Microsoft standard way of publishing applications on the web. So it's an ActiveX control, a visual ActiveX control. Now Delphi is going away and creating all of the code needed to build one of these Internet ActiveX controls. As far as I'm concerned as a developer, I just treat this like any old Delphi application. So what I'm going to do now is take the component that we just made, drop that on our form, and you'll see that in fact that's just the exact same application we made 2 minutes ago, except now it's web enabled. All right. So all I need to do now is say project web deploy. It's going to compile my application for me and deploy it to my web server. Okay. And there it is. It's finishing deploying. We can now go off to our web server and we can run that application. Let's just find those files very quickly. Okay, let's just click on this HTML page that Delphi's provided for us. So it creates for me a sample HTML page with my application embedded in it, and I can run that. Now, Internet Explorer will actually take a little bit of time to load this control for the very first time, because as you know, when an ActiveX control loads, it gets installed on the local system, which is actually quite good, because it will, the first time it will be installed, and subsequent times it doesn't have to download the control each time.
So while it's just doing that, Steve, I understand that Borland have a range of development tools, and I'd like you to maybe say something about that.
Yeah, well, the idea that you've seen, or the environment you've seen today that we call Delphi, is actually reproduced in two other environments. We have a C++ version of this particular tool called C++ Builder, which has exactly the same IDE, which allows you to write C++ code instead of Object Pascal. We also have another product called JBuilder, which allows you to use the exact same environment but write Java code instead.
Okay. So here we have the page.
Yeah, so here you can see this is a web page running on a normal internet browser, and I have full access to my whole application running inside of Internet Explorer. So this now could be deployed to anyone in my organisation by just clicking on a web page.
We're out of time. Thank you very much.
I hope it's been useful.
Thank you. I have with me Sean Cookson and Anthony Dunlop from Edit21. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Phil.
Edit21, tell me about the company.
Edit21 is a subsidiary of Rentworks Limited, which is a wholly Australian-owned company specialising in funding information technology. Rentworks has been established for over 10 years and has a background in funding for schools and tertiary institutions Australia-wide, with offices in every capital city of Australia.
So Edit21 is not only a division of Rentworks, but it's also a product.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or a program. Yeah.
Sure. Edit21 is a consumer product. It's all about providing an affordable consumer rental plan to parents and to staff at schools and at tertiary institutions.
So for students and teachers, what it involves is a rental program so that they can carry their notebook to school, carry their notebook home?
Effectively what it means is, instead of having to come up with a large upfront cash payment to purchase a computer, you can pay for the computer over the period of its usable life, and then upgrade into a new computer.
And that's important, isn't it? Because we all know that the technology changes so quickly that if you buy and then in 2 or 3 years as that dated, you've got to sell and then you've got to rebuy, so you're taking the headaches out of that.
It's all about making technology affordable for the individual, putting computers in the hands of students and teachers, avoiding the large upfront cash cost of purchasing a computer, and instead paying for it over its usable life.
I think it's going to be the future, because I think a number of schools and universities are looking at the computer labs that get outdated, and they're looking at a model where the students come to the university or the school with their own technology, and indeed the teachers do as well. So how can a teacher or a student get in contact with you at Edit21?
Well, that's quite easy. We have a 1-800 number that they can contact us on. We also have the Edit21 website that's accessible.
Okay. And we also have a network across the country of Edit21 dealers that are education-specific dealers.
And the advantage is, of course, that everyone knows that the technology changes so quickly that if you go out and buy a notebook, in 2 or 3 years' time, it's outdated, it won't run the software that you want, you've got to look to sell it, and then you've got to look to rebuy. The advantage with rental would be...
Well, the main advantages with rental is it provides the flexibility to upgrade into new technology without any major penalties. Unlike owning a computer, virtually the moment you purchase a computer, it devalues incredibly the day after.
It's much better. It's a lot cheaper than purchasing or traditional methods of finance, and it gives you the capacity to change when you need to. And you just not, as you said, Phil, you just don't know when you're going to need to change.
Okay, so what we're talking about is a monthly fee for the rental, and after 2 years you find that you can't run the applications that you need to, and you can ring up Rentworks again or Edit21 again and say, need a new machine, and you can arrange that.
That's right, Phil. It's a fixed monthly payment. You can upgrade during the term. If you want to keep the machine at the end of the term, you can, or you can simply hand it back and upgrade to a new one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Phil.